So you may have noticed I took a little Bond break, so to speak, did a little excursion to other films for a while, but I'm in the mood to talk about 007 again, big time. You know, the world of James Bond always feels like coming home to me, no matter if reading the books or watching the films. Sweet escapism, the beautiful locations, beautiful women, over-the-top action, larger-than-life music, unforgettable villains, and of course Mr. Bond himself. No matter in which era, no matter who plays him, he's always great. They are all great, and I'm planning to do a series of videos starting with a ranking of my all-time top 5 Bond films. This list hadn't changed over the years, so I didn't have to think about it too much. And without any further ado, my all-time top 5 Bond films. So number 5 is Casino Royale, maybe one of the most important films in Bond history because it reinvented the character of James Bond for a new generation and for future generations to come. What's so great about this film is not only Craig's energetic and unique performance, maybe the best acting since Dalton by the way. What's so great about this film is that it isn't an action-driven film first and foremost, it's a character-driven film and a story-driven film. And that was a brave decision back in the mid-2000s because there was big action blockbusters all over the place. But they said, let's dial down the action and ramp up the dialogue and the character development. What a brave decision. You know, this goes back to the original Fleming novel from the 50s, which was, of course, the right decision. We have the best Bond girl of them all, played by Eva Green. She plays Vesper Lynd. The chemistry between her and Craig is amazing. It's energetic, it's believable. It's the first believable love story in Bond history, maybe. I love everything between them. Mads Mikkelsen as Le Chiffre looks like the Antichrist himself. I think he's the most evil-looking person in movie history, maybe. It's a great film. It's not only a great Bond film, it's a great film in general. So that's my number 5. So number 4 is the true classic Goldfinger, the film that started it all. All of the familiar tropes, the gadgets, the Aston Martin, the larger-than-life villain. And Goldfinger is maybe the main reason for me to put this in my top 5, because I think he's the most charismatic villain in movie history and maybe the most evil person ever existed on a screen. Why is he so evil? Because of his greed, because he simply wants more. He has everything. He even drives a golden car and whatever, but he still wants more, and that's all there is to it. There's no code, no morals, no whatever. He just wants more. And I think that's a pretty evil thing. He's like a dark version of Bond because, you know, Bond gets all the girls, he's good looking, he's successful. Goldfinger accomplishes all of those things just by cheating. He's cheating at the card games, he's buying himself women, he's betraying and stealing from people. And that's because that's why he's a little jealous of Bond, I think. And this is what makes the chemistry between those characters so interesting when they simply have a playing golf against each other. And of course, it's about so much more than just a game. You know, it's a cat and mouse game between those characters. And I think that's very effective. And I think he's maybe the most effective villain in the whole franchise. Gerd Fröbe was amazing. Connery's on top of his game in this film. I think it's his best performance. As Bond, it's well balanced. He's rough on the edges, but I love his sense of humor. Yeah, it's a perfect Bond film if you ask me. So it's, of course, had to go to my top 5 list. So my number 3 might surprise a lot of you guys. It's Octopussy. This was always one of my favorite Bond films. It's heavily criticized among fans for its humor and cheap gags. Critics were pretty harsh to this film also, and I think it got a bad rap for many years unfairly, because I think there's so much more to this film than just its humor. I think it's in fact a pretty dark Cold War spy thriller. And I don't know why those dark aspects of the story always seem to be forgotten, even by fans. I mean, they're planning to um, detonate a dirty bomb, in Germany, at the circus, and there are children around, and I think it's a very dark story. And I think it's well balanced. I don't think the humor is too much. Of course, there's some cheap gags in there. It was the 80s, and I think, it's of its time. But I think the whole thing with, the agent, is it 006 or something, dressed as the clown, getting killed by the knife throwing twins. That's a pretty dark scene. I love Kamal Khan as a villain. But it still, cuts the usual, Bond tropes we love. It has Gobinda, which is pretty much, an Indian version of Jaws, let's say. It has the exotic locations. I love the Indian setting. It has great Q scenes, and all of the things we love. Um, it's funny, but it's also pretty serious at times. It has a great Bond girl, I think Maud Adams. There's an interesting backstory between her character and Bond's, which comes directly from Fleming. And the music is amazing. John Barry's score, it's one of my favorites in this film. The action scenes are spectacular. The whole thing on the plane at the end. I think it was BJ Worth, the stuntman, who long before Mission Impossible truly hold on to a starting plane. This is real stunt work, of course, not when you see Roger Moore, but other than that, it's what you see is what you get. Yeah, I think it's an amazing Bond film. I think it's very well balanced between its more humorous and its darker tones. Yeah, perfect Bond film in my opinion. I love it. Talking about well-balanced films in the franchise, my number 2 is The Living Daylights. I think this also balances very well the familiar and more funny tropes we are used to love, and a more grittier tone, which mainly comes through Dalton's performance, and I'm a big Dalton fan. The whole pre-title sequence where he comes in like a force of nature. I remember watching this the first time in my childhood, and I was used to Roger Moore, and it totally messed with my head. I couldn't believe what I saw. He comes in the way he rips apart the roof of the car and gets to this guy, like a wild dog or something. And it was so amazing. I love his performance, but he also has a more calm and sensitive side, maybe. Um, the way he acts, it's his eyes. He doesn't need any dialogue like a good theater, classically trained actor. He only needs his eyes, and they tell you everything about his moods and where he's at emotionally. And yeah, I love Dalton's performance. I also love the villains, especially Whitaker. I think he's very amusing, very entertaining, in contrast to Dalton, because Whitaker is this rude American, and Dalton, of course, the sophisticated British snob. And the confrontation between those two is very amusing, I think, very entertaining, and I love the whole scene in the end, with the whole canon and the whole confrontation between those two. It's one of my favorite scenes in Bond history. There's an amazing car chase, maybe my favorite car chase in the whole franchise. I love when he says, "I got a few optional extras installed," and then shoots his rocket. It's my favorite car in the franchise. I love this Aston Martin. The music is Barry at its absolute best. I think his best work was A View to a Kill, The Living Daylights, and maybe Octopussy. I think those three, I think those are my favorite John Barry scores. I love the locations. It's filmed in my hometown of Vienna in the beginning. There's a third man feel to the whole thing. It feels like an old old spy thriller from the 30s or 40s. And yeah, I think it has the best henchman in the whole franchise, in my opinion. My favorites are not Jaws or Oddjob. Um, yeah, it's Necros. I think this is the most dangerous henchman of them all. The whole scene with the milk bottles, you know, where he breaks into the safe house, kills the guy in the kitchen, also like a force of nature. It feels so dangerous, and you have to think about what happens when Bond finally, meets this guy. You're afraid for Bond, and there's this amazing battle in the end between those two going on in the plane. Maybe one of the best action scenes in the franchise. The stuntman, also BJ Worf, who hung on, to the sack hanging out of the plane, and he got thrown off multiple times. He's talking about this in the making of the old DVDs, and yeah, so amazing henchman. So The Living Daylights is definitely my second favorite film. My number one got pretty popular among fans over the past 2 decades or something. A lot of people got this in their top three. It's On Her Majesty's Secret Service. I think this is the ultimate Bond film, ironically, because Lazenby's performance as Bond wasn't pretty popular back in the day, and it still is criticized for being a little dry. But I always thought that a Bond story is bigger than the character itself, and the character itself is always bigger than the actor who plays him. I think this is an amazing love story between Bond and Tracy, which is played by Diana Rigg. I think both those people have amazing chemistry between each other. I believe it, I feel it. Even when it gets sentimental, it never comes off as corny or cheap. It's always beautiful. I love to spend time with them. The whole scene in the barn, yeah, it's just lovely. They have just great chemistry. I love the relationship between Bond and her father Draco, their conversation, and how the whole thing is set up. It's very Fleming-esque, let's say. I love Telly Savalas as the villain. He's my favorite Blofeld. Yeah, maybe a little too American at times, but still highly charismatic. The whole location in Switzerland is maybe the most iconic Bond location of them all. I think it's the most atmospheric location ever showed in a Bond film. I would love to spend time there. I have never been there, but I definitely will go very soon. The action scenes definitely set new standards for cinema in general. Those ski chase choreographed by Willy Bogner is breathtaking, and those making offs are very exciting because you got to see how they filmed the whole thing. Bogner was hanging on a parachute carried by a ski mobile or something, and he was, hanging backwards so he could film the stuntman coming down the hill, and it's just exciting stuff. The music from John Barry is amazing as always, and yeah, I think this is the film I watched the most. It was my favorite back in my childhood days, and it still is my favorite. I think this film comes very close to what Fleming did. This one and Casino Royale are maybe the most Fleming-esque films in the franchise. It's a classy film, it's a stylish film, it's a beautifully shot film. It has great characters, amazing chemistry between the actors, unforgettable locations. It also, got the usual things, the car chase and stuff like that. But it's not afraid to try some new things and to go to darker places. And, that was also a pretty brave decision for the time in the 60s. A lot of people didn't like this, Tracy dying in the end. But I think, yeah, it makes the whole franchise more colorful, more interesting, to try some new things every now and then. And this is what this film did. It's amazing. It's my number one. So please tell me about your top 5 favorite Bond films. I'm really curious, I would love to get in contact with some fans over this. to discuss this a little bit, even just when it's just in the comments. So please do me a favor and tell me about your passion, you know, tell me about your favorite films. Love you, and we'll see you again soon.